It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio, flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome on Facebook and Instagram at The Mike Nowak Show and at Mike Now on Twitter.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand. Right.
Oh, and no Peggy. Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, are you there? Oh, did you just take off?
I'm here.
Okay, great. What we're going to do...
One more time.
Before we do this, and I'm having issues here.
No,
Oh, there you
I
are.
am. I have no idea. Oh, the latency's better.
Oh, is it? It's, well, we're bringing
It's
this
still
down.
delayed, but it's...
Oh, yeah. So here's what I'm going to
better.
do. Folks, I'm taking Peggy out there, and I'm taking Mike out. And today, this is going to be...
This is old school.
It's real old school. It's going to be like radio. Because... Radio. I can't even play stuff like that here today. I don't know exactly what's going on, but there is some issue with the computer today and the video stream. So it has just kind of... Everything's slow, and it's not. And I'm not going to go into detail because you're not interested in all.
I
of
just
that.
say turn up your speakers and enjoy our good old-fashioned radio broadcast this morning.
Exactly. That's what I've got here. That's why I've got the. Oh, you've got the jingle bells there too. Good for you. I've got that bell. Yeah, I'm just going to leave our screen up there. With in fact, I don't even know if it's going. I think we got to restart that. Let's.
No,
yeah.
it's on Facebook. It's got.
No. What I mean is, I'm trying to even play our sponsors, the rotating sponsors.
No, that is frozen. Yes,
That's frozen.
That is frozen.
So.
There we go. Nope, it just turned.
Did one of them turn? Okay, I've
Yes,
been trying to start this. I don't see it here, but you see it there. So what we're going to do
I have
today
it on Facebook.
oh, there we are. Yeah, it did turn. Okay. What we're going to do is treat it like a radio program, which I've done for many years, and even before we had all this stuff. And I'm not going to have the video up because it would just be really, really distracting. So put this on in the background. Everybody relax. If things get better, if somehow magically the forces in the interwebs decide to cooperate and the computer, we might go back to video. But for right now, it is what it is. Welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, a radio program on the internet this morning. And we're very pleased that we got and the reason it's so frustrating is that we have such a great lineup on the show today. If you went to the website, and I encourage you always go to the website and check out the blog at mikenovak.net, MikeNowak.net. And I titled it 3 Environmental Concerns, or as Bill Curtis would say, environmental. It's when you look at the world and the changes that we're just about to have in our own government and all of the nonsense. Let's put it that way. That's been going on for the past 4 years in terms of our environment and the gutting of our institutions like the EPA and the Interior Department and everything else. You think, boy, how do you break it down? How do you even start with what needs to be fixed on this planet? And I guess the way you do it is you address these things one issue at a time. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to address one issue at a time, and we're going to start with a couple of folks who have been working on, I guess, a problem down downstate. We have exactly one nationally designated scenic river in Illinois, and that is the Vermillion. And so at this point, let me bring in our two guests for the show. And you're not going to, again, you're not going to see them because they are just having their audio broadcast. And they are Jenny Cassel. She's a staff attorney with Earthjustice. She works in the coal program out of Earthjustice's new Midwest office in Chicago. And we have Andrew Rehn. He is a water resources engineer with Prairie Rivers Network. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
I'm glad I can have you here in any way, shape, or form. Maybe, Andrew, you've been on the program before, and we've talked about this particular issue because there's a lot of groups who are working because there was a coal power plant on the Vermillion that operated for many years, about 55 years, and it has a legacy, and perhaps we'll start with you. Although, let me ask you, which of you would like to sort of outline the story down there? I thought, Andrew, maybe you would with Prairie Rivers.
Yeah, I think I can talk about the Middle Fork and how it's becoming the Middle Fork of the Vermillion River. That is
right. We're talking about the Middle Fork of the Vermillion River in downstate Illinois, and as I said, designated as a national scenic river, and it's the only one in the state of Illinois, right?
Yeah. So 17 miles of this river are designated, and that 17-mile stretch is entirely public land. It's sort of a mishmash of county parks and state parks, except for one exception, which is the closed Vermillion Power Station. That's located maybe more or less halfway down this stretch of the river that's protected. And that power station closed in 2011. It operated since the 1950s. And it's got these three huge coal ash ponds that are sitting down in the floodplain of the river. So it's up on the bluff, but the ash is all down next to the river and immediately next to it. So while we have this amazing national scenic river, we've got this huge pollution problem just sitting on the riverbanks.
Yeah, and they're called legacy ponds, which I thought was kind of interesting. I found an article at Earthjustice, and we'll get to Jenny in just a second. And a woman named Lisa Evans, and I imagine you work with her, Jenny, wrote on the website at Earthjustice. She said, "Legacy ponds are the walking dead of the coal ash universe. Toxic waste sites that live long after coal plants have closed, slipping through regulatory cracks as they continue to poison communities." Would you comment on that, Jennifer Cassel?
Sure. One technical challenge, Mike. I'm actually able to hear Andrew, so I don't know anything that he just said. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. But with regard to legacy ponds, sure, yeah, description you're right. I do work with her, and the issue is widespread. There are a lot of old ash ponds that coal plants had shut down before the federal rule went into effect in October 2015. Were previously unregulated, like this Vermillion plant. And the problem with these old ponds is they're often even than ponds that are operating in terms of decades old, not having any sort of adequate line.
Okay, Jen, I'm going to have to stop you there. You're breaking up something fierce, and boy, I'm not sure that this is going to work with you here. So let's go back to for the moment, at any rate, Andrew, and talk about that legacy, those legacy ponds. There are three of them in the area of the Vermillion, as you said, on the floodplain of the Vermillion River, and they are ponds that they're already leaking into the river, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah. So the pond is, it's kind of an odd term. To give a sense of scale, there's three of them. One of them, the North Ash Pond, is about 30 acres in sort of area, and it's got I think 2 million or 1.6 million cubic yards of coal ash, and I know that's not a very sort of understandable number in some ways, but these are pretty massive. The other thing to think about when you're thinking about a lot of these coal ash ponds,
too.
They're super deep. They built kind of a berm, and then they started filling in that hole with ash. So they're just piles of ash. There's not anything. There's not a lot of fancy technology going on here. They're called the pond because they once upon a time had standing water, and the intention was to let all the bad stuff settle out, and then you take water off the top that's cleaner, and you have to discharge that through your permit. So that's how these operated. Now, because they're just just pits filled with ash, they're in immediate contact with groundwater. And these coal ash ponds are right next to the Middle Fork. And so when you canoe down the river, you can actually see a long portion of the riverbank that is that's orange, stained orange, which is oxidizing iron, which is one of the things that's in coal ash. And probably about 100, 200 feet of it of the riverbank is sort of continually seeping this pollution into the water, and that's just sort of what we're seeing. But we know it can also be coming up into the river itself from below. You just don't get that telltale, orange staining on the riverbank that really calls it out to the eye. So these are immediately right there. Go ahead.
I was going to ask Andrew, sorry, if the leaching is strictly all coming from inside the pond, or is it being amplified by the riverbank eroding and being cut back?
Yeah, so that's sort of the two-part threat at this site, is that not only do we have the continual problem, the continual pollution that we're getting from groundwater flow that's happening, all the time, but we have this eroding riverbank. So rivers, especially rivers like the Middle Fork, that size, do a lot of meandering. They have a sort of floodplain that they have lived in for geological time, hundreds of thousands of years, and they are swinging sort of back and forth in that floodplain. And since these coal ash ponds live in the floodplain of the Middle Fork, it's currently moving out towards them, and it's really close in some areas. So I go out multiple times a year just to take a look and see, how far this erosion of the riverbank has progressed, because the distance between when you go from riverbank to the part of the coal ash pond that is the berm, the impoundment, the structural part that's keeping all that coal ash back, is down to feet here. We're talking about 10, wow, 20 less feet, and so that river has been steadily moving, and what we're all fearing is a sort of a massive erosion event that that jumps this remaining distance in 1 year. But even as we fear that, we know that every year I go back and everything looks a little different. There's things that were a cave last year that collapsed, or there are things that new features. There's a pipe. There's some sort of pipe that's under this whole thing that is slowly being unearthed. A clay tile, so it's probably from back in the 40s when this was being farmed. So there's all kinds of interesting but very scary situations along this riverbank here.
Yeah, it does sound disturbing, and you've taken lots of photographs, and I've got one of them up on the website on the blog post, and it shows the different chemicals that are seeping along into the river, along the riverbank, and it causes them to turn bright colors, which might be pretty, but it's in a way it's terrifying, because it's an indication that the health of the river is in danger. Do you know right now how much of those chemicals are leaching into the river? You must be doing tests.
Well, we've done tests. We don't have a test right now, but we have multiple constituents across the spectrum that you see in coal ash are above the contaminant level, and without having Jenny on and the ability to, because Jenny is in fact my lawyer on this issue, without her being able to respond, it's just to say there's a lot of different things that is found in coal ash, heavy metals, things like arsenic or chromium, things like boron, things like vanadium. Just it's really kind of a smorgasbord, and we have multiple different parameters that are above the level that's allowed to be discharged into rivers.
And I have to.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, and I apologize. I called Jenny just now on the phone, and I thought maybe I could hold up the phone. We've done this in the past with the speaker to the microphone here, but the problem is, the conversation we're having with you is almost in the past. It's odd. It's she was in real time on the phone, and we have a latency even with the audio here, so it wouldn't have synced up. And the other point is that Earthjustice is an organization that provides lawyers for these kinds of environmental issues, which is why Prairie Rivers went to Earthjustice and said, "Hey, you need to represent us." And I know that you guys had a lawsuit in 2018 that was thrown out in 2019 by a district judge in Illinois, but that has been, and this is where we would really need Jennifer to talk about this, but the case is being taken up again this year, because you're going to base your argument to have that judgment overturned because of a U.S. Supreme Court ruling involving groundwater in Hawaii, of all things.
The County of Maui versus Hawaii Wildlife Fund is the official.
I can say a little bit about it.
Sure.
Jenny would, of course, more. But so there was this case in Hawaii where they have, I think there were wastewater pits that were underground, and those were leaking pollution into the Pacific Ocean. So this case went to the Supreme Court. The question that the Supreme Court was answering was, hey, does the Clean Water Act apply here? We have a pollution source. We have waters of the state, which are typically understood to be surface waters. We have a pollution source impacting those surface waters. Does the Clean Water Act apply? And so from my non-legal perspective, we got an answer. They didn't just say yes or no. They give us some sort of answer about, there's the test that looks at time and distance. And that's how you decide if this applies or not. For us, that's exciting because the Middle Fork is right next to these ponds. So exciting because, this this water goes right from those ponds, like right into the river. I mean, the separation is very, very small. So it really feels like we're the right fit for this one. And so that's why our sort of our legal battle was sort of waiting on this Supreme Court case, because however that was decided was going to really shape how it's going with us. And now that we have a decision, we're arguing that we should go back to our district court. We're in the appeals court now. We should go back to our district court and be able to start arguing again. And actually, have our day in court, hear the case, and get going. Finally.
Well, and speaking as a layperson on this, and if I look at this issue, and I hear that there's a company like Dynegy, which is now no longer Dynegy, that these companies keep getting bought by other companies.
It's now Vistra.
Vistra. Does that, first of all, does that create a problem as these companies get handed off, Andrew?
Yeah, it can. I guess it all kind of comes down to when the I don't know, when the chips fall. I'm not sure what the right expression here is. When ultimately there's going to be large fiscal responsibility, that's when we're going to find out whether these sort of corporate structures are really going to bite us, or when one of these companies ultimately goes bankrupt. That's when we're going to find out whether these corporate structures are really going to leave the Illinois taxpayer holding the bag on all of this pollution. We last year passed the Coal Ash Pollution Prevention Act, and one of the big wins in that act is actually that coal companies have to have, or coal power plant owning companies have to have money put up front in the form of bonds that can be used for cleanup of these ash ponds. So we know the money is there, bonds and some other mechanisms as well.
Right.
But we have that.
And I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, just to put a little bit in context, that it's not just this one Dynegy plant on the Vermillion. You had written up on your blog that Illinois EPA has identified 73 coal ash ponds at dozens of power plants across the whole state. So it's not just one. This is a much bigger problem in the state.
Yeah, there's about 24 or 25 power plants that are either closed or open across the state with coal ash ponds. And so that's a lot to track. Even that number was different before, because it's even hard to count. What is a pond when two of them are next to each other with a barrier between them? Or so the scope of this problem is absolutely statewide, and to say that it's absolutely nationwide, because there are coal ash ponds at probably every single coal-fired power plant, or if they're not, the coal ash was going from that power plant to some other place where it was being dumped. So it's a big problem in Illinois, and the Middle Fork has become sort of a eye-opener in many ways. We see our river right next to it. We have a chance to canoe that river and be up close against these ponds, and on your left have this beautiful park area where oftentimes you're seeing all kinds of animals. Just it's pretty removed. There's not even often people there. Just nature preserved in its glory. And on the right you have the coal ash ponds with the smokestack looming over them in the distance. So it really created this stark contrast that helped us tell the story of this problem that really exists in dozens of places in the state.
If I, by the way, we're talking to Andrew Rehn, water resources engineer with Prairie Rivers Network. As you can hear, we're talking about the threat to the Middle Fork of the Vermillion River in central Illinois due to a now retired coal plant, and power plant that has left behind these ponds, these pits, that are just chock full of toxic coal ash, and it's already beginning to seep into the river. And we should know that in other states there have been catastrophes where there have been breaches. Notably in North Carolina, there was one a number of years ago that released all kinds of coal ash and fouled 70 miles of river in that state. So it could happen in Illinois if this is not addressed. And it and it gets me back to what I was going to say before, which is, as a layperson, I look and I say, okay, you've got coal ash, it's seeping into the river, and yet we need the Supreme Court to tell us that there's, A plus B equals C. I look at it and I say, yeah, it's the coal ash is coming from those pits. It's going into the river. You're going to throw in something about, oh, well, it's groundwater, so it really doesn't count. I think the average person, Andrew, looks at that and said, "That's insane. This is law taken to its most illogical extreme." That's the way I look at it. I don't. How do you look at that?
Yeah, I guess I just, I see companies trying to save money as much as they can and not pay for this cost that they've been putting on the public for so long, right? Pollution is this thing that we're all bearing. We're all just accepting that this coal ash has to live next to the Middle Fork to the benefit of people who are making a profit doing what they're doing. And so the absurdity, I think, comes from folks trying to, not pay for what's due. And there's a lot due because these companies have for decades been sort of offloading this expense onto people.
Right, and they put it in this pit, and their goal here, if if the company isn't bought by yet another company, but they want to do something that more than one person has referred to as cap and run. What is cap and run?
Yeah, so what companies want to do for the most part at these ponds is cap them, which means put a layer on top of them that will stop rainfall from getting in. And if you've heard me talking about these ponds today, that should seem a little off because again, there's nothing below these ponds. This is ash on dirt. So when you put a cap on that, it might help stop rainfall, but it's not going to stop all this groundwater that's there already, especially in the Middle Fork, where it is literally, you have. When you approach the Middle Fork, you go from like flat farmland, Illinois, and then you fall off a cliff into this river that's built a little floodplain down there. And the ash is down in that floodplain. So, the farmland that's 80 feet above that has water in the groundwater, that's all passing through this ash as it flows into the river. So we know these caps don't want to work. And the other thing that Dynegy would like to do is to just cover this riverbank, just concrete it over, cover it in rocks as a way to stop the river from eroding, which would not only be a horrible eyesore, but in the long run, we want this river to be around forever. We're not just interested in protecting it until the river finds another way to meander around those rocks or come in from another direction.
Yeah.
I mean, if the ash is in the river's home, the river's going to find a way to get to that ash, unfortunately, and we have to prevent that from happening.
And that's my point. Is I don't know how a company can argue, well, that we capped it. I can't account for other kinds of water from other sources coming and washing it into the river. No, that's not the way it works. You're responsible. You put it there, and now it's leaking, and now you have to do something, which is get rid of it. That seems to me really clear, and yet you have to do this legal wrangling about responsibility. We know who's responsible. It is the company who put the coal ash there in the first place. And if you bought that company, now you assume the responsibility. This is, again, as a layperson, this is how I look at it. And when you try to dodge and weave, this is the worst of our court systems, if you ask me. It's certainly in terms of environmental matters. And
Yeah,
go ahead, Andrew.
Frustrating.
Yeah,
No, it absolutely can be frustrating, and it's money in my mind that that it just that's what we
right.
overvalue
Instead of paying lawyers, why don't you just put that money into solving the problem and get it done? And so I'm hoping that this case moves forward and that you're able to get some satisfaction out of it. And
is there anything that people can do Can they be writing in about anything, contacting legislation or legislators?
You know, I think if you want to, get on Earthjustice or Prairie Rivers Network's mailing list, I mean, this comes up all the time. We need people writing in about things, and that's the best way to find out. So, Facebook or membership on the websites.
The newsletters.
We just the newsletters. We just finished the coal ash rulemaking, in which we had people coming out, virtually coming out to these hearings to speak up for strong coal ash protections. So 2 months ago, I would have said, yeah, we got the perfect thing, but we just kind of got through a major
comment
push.
period's
But
passed,
tune in, because it comes back. We're making calls to protect the Middle Fork and other places from coal ash problems, multiple times a year. So we just need folks to listen in.
And I would call attention to other allies that you have, the Eco-Justice Collaborative, Pam and Lan Richard, who they do a lot to get the word out. This is part of what they do. They rabble rouse and get folks involved in this. And you have other partners, other environmental organizations. So you're not going it alone. There's a lot of people who are very, very concerned about this, and I would call attention to all of those. There are various ways you can get involved, and I think it would start by going to Prairie Rivers Network, go to Earthjustice, go to Eco-Justice Collaborative, and they outline the situation. All of you guys outline the situation very well on your websites, and as you said, stay in touch with social media, and that will help ensure that there actually is some kind of environmental justice.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing up Eco-Justice. I was gonna do that myself if you didn't. So they've been incredible partners.
I have to, because we've had them on the show several times, and we know how hard they're working, and we can't have all the people on all the time who are involved in this issue. And I know the last time you were on the show, you were on with Eco-Justice Collaborative. So yes, they're part of the solution too, and of course, Earthjustice is as well. Andrew Rehn, thank you so much for being with us on the show today under very difficult circumstances here, technically, not with you, but technically. And we're going to let you go, and I'm sure we'll talk again very soon.
Thanks so much.
All right, have a great Sunday. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And all right, I'm making a call here. What I'm going to do, Peggy, is we're gonna shut this down right now, because it's difficult, and the computer is crying out. Well, and there's Lisa, of course. Lisa calls in.
That's Lisa. Well, she's listening. She and I've been texting.
Oh, okay. Well, here's what I want to do. I'm going to shut it down, and we're going to start the stream again if things look a little better. And if they do, then we'll bring in Lisa. And if not, we're going to call it a Sunday and relax and have some breakfast. So, folks, hang on for just a little bit. I'm going to stop the stream, start it back up at some point, and see if we can make this go. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we hope to see you